Greetings pimps. Today we will be counting down the top 10 esports pro players of all time. Now it should not need to be said that this is a very subjective list. I am basing this mostly on overall skill, but I also took into account influence on the scene, tournament money earned, and of course my personal opinion. The top 10 are all people I have watched play and from games I at least somewhat follow. There will be honorable mentions first, and I tossed in a few I have never watched to spice it up a little bit. Bear in mind this is an all-time list, so current players that just started such as Bit from Navi's CSGO team and Simp from Call of Duty cannot make the cut. Also bear in mind that I do not consider games such as Fortnite and Apex to be legit esports, so no so-called pros from those will be included. There are 100s I have of course left out to keep this video short, so feel free to list them below. One last thing before we get to the honorable mentions: there is only one player per game allowed in the top 10, which is why some obvious picks may not be present in the top 10. Now on with the show. Our honorable mentions will start off with a couple from games I have never watched but felt I should include them. These are Fly from Arena of Valor and Moon from Warcraft 3. I don't know anything about them, but they're here above a lot of other choices. So, next for our honorable mentions we have Scump. Now he's here mainly for his massive influence and not so much overall skill, although he is def up there. Of course Call of Duty is the lowest skill gap esport to ever exist, so he remains on the mentions, not the real list. We next have some CS 1.6 legends to mention. These include Neo, Forrest, Get Right, and Markelov. I didn't watch back in that day, but you have to show respect to the pioneers. Showmaker from League of Legends is also an honorable mention. Now with this one it came down to him and the obvious other pick to represent this game, so you probably know who made the list. Lastly, I wanted to mention 2018 to 2020 Astralis as a whole. Since I am limiting the real list to one per game, I wanted to mention the best team to ever touch the game of Counter-Strike as a whole. You can likely guess who is on the actual list, and his name does not start with a Z. Now this list is in exact order, so the closer to the number one spot the better. At number 10 we have Formal from Halo and Call of Duty fame. Yes, we all know both games are very low skill gap and ceiling wise compared to almost every other esport, but he is still on the list. Number 9 we have Monkey Moon from Rocket League. Now this one is more of a personal pick, as I am what I would call a casual fan of Rocket League and became a fan of Monkey Moon strictly because of his name. He is one of, if not the best to ever touch the game too though, so he gets the spot. At number 8 we have Armada from Smash Bros. Melee. Now, you may be saying why Armada instead of a few others you can name. That comes down to personal preference and also the fact I always found playing as Peach to be much more impressive than someone like Jigglypuff. At 7 we have our boy Jay Jonak from Overwatch. Now, I haven't watched Overwatch in years at this point, but you could slap about any of the top pros on this list considering how good your aim, awareness and teamwork has to be. Number 6 is where the list starts to get serious, so to speak. Here we have Daigo from Street Fighter. Perhaps the best fighting game player of all time, although it is indeed very tough to compare between games. His longevity is one of the many reasons he is on this list besides overall skill. 5 is Cyril from StarCraft 2. Now he would probably be a few spots higher if I was more into watching StarCraft often, but top 5 is very respectable. Problem is the top 4 are so skilled in their respective games and so influential that it comes down to my personal choice. Number 4 is Faker from League of Legends. Yes, he is above Showmaker by a large margin all time. One of the few names that expand outside his esport along with his immense skill. Top 3 is perhaps where things become the most solid as can possibly be done. Number 3 is No Tail from Dota 2. Not only is he one of the most skilled players of all time, but also the highest earning esport player ever, winning the most prestigious event back to back. Now that is certainly no 3 majors in a row like Astralis, but ask anyone who watches any sport if they know who he is or at least heard of him, and the answer will almost always be yes. Now in theory number 2 and 3 could swap, but I am biased towards the skill required to play FPS games, especially for number 1. 2 is Simple, the highest skilled Counter-Strike player to ever exist. This one doesn't need any further explanation. Simple is by far the most famous esport player of all time. While he may not be the highest earner, he is far and above every play in Counter-Strike skill-wise. Yes, even Siwoo. This is a reminder to take a step back sometimes and realize that you are watching greatness before their time has passed. Take it from an Astralis fan that has been following the boys since Dignitas. The king is not immortal and Navi won't last forever. Now number 1 is mostly a personal pick, although anyone who has knowledge of esports can understand and appreciate why he is number 1. And the official number 1 esports pro of all time is Rafa from Quake. This is highly based around his overall skill and the fact Quake not only has the highest skill ceiling and gap of any esport but is 1 versus 1. You cannot claim Rafa was carried by or had help from teammates like you can do with most of this list. Just pure movement, aim, enemy tracking, game knowledge, timings, reading the opponent, etc. You will never see this level of precise play in any other esport or from any other player for the majority of the time anyway. The skill required is far and above anything witnessed in any fighting game as well as strategy games like StarCraft. While still impressive, it's not even close. In fighting games your opponent is always on screen, and in StarCraft you watch the units do their thing without having complete control, so to speak. Thus making Quake the ultimate esport and Rafa the greatest esport pro of all time. Considering the money that is in Quake compared to other esports and Rafa overall following, it should make it even more impressive he is far and away number 1. All hail the king of esports. Anyways, pimps, we out.